So here's been something that's been brewing on the beta branch for a little while now. It's the patch 2.1.3, the one that eases everything out and adds a little bit of additional flavor to Distant Stars, and as well as some additional content. But we'll get to that. Patchnotes time, everybody's favorite. Our good friend Jamor, the Stellaris project lead. Hey, at least he's one of the project leads. You've got Wiz, who is the lead game designer and all that stuff. However, let's dive in to Patchnotes 2.1.3. First of all, features. They have updated the game for GDPR compliance. Basically, once you update the game, and you may have already done this, you will see a huge list that says, do you agree with the fact that we may or may not be using some of your information? This is all legal stuff. It's European Union related. It's not really something that really applies to you if you're outside of the EU, but it's still good to have because the Paradox basically needs to take your personal information and handles it with certain amounts of respect. So, GDPR update, always good. Added buttons to view privacy policy from in-game. This is an extension of GDPR. Basically, you need to be able to see your privacy policy at all time. Now we get all the good stuff. They've added new clothes, hairstyles for humans, humanoids, and mammalians. That is really, really good stuff. This is basically a bunch of stuff that has been added to Distant Stars, as well as a bunch of clothes for the base game, which is great because they've been constantly updating the game as well as certain expansions pretty proactively, if I may say so. The soundtrack pack constantly gets updated with new tracks and stuff like that. It's a pretty good deal, actually. You just buy it once and they just continuously update it with new content. Kind of like the game in general, really, but this is the music from the expansions, which is pretty awesome because the music itself is pretty good. Added the inscrutable mystery to Distant Stars. I don't know what the unscrutable mystery is. I'm sure we'll have a look sooner or later what it actually does. It's a new it's a new set of events for Distant Stars, and we will go into that separately sooner or later. Added follow-ups to the atomic clock anomaly. So there's an anomaly in the game which basically says you found the clock on a box. Do you want to open it up, or do you want to have it start ticking for 60 years? It's an interesting one because, yeah, basically it didn't do all that much. If you've ever seen the One Challenge Planet walkthrough, we got the atomic clock on that one, and we chose not to open it because we were curious on what was going to happen. Nothing happened, so new follow-ups have been added. I believe this was a L cluster item as well. Added an event from when an AI Empire is close to unlocking the L cluster, which is actually really important because once any empire opens up the L cluster, their local L cluster gate will not be affected by the potential Great Tempest that sits on the other side. All the other gates, however, will be subjected to said enemies. So it's kind of important to know that an enemy empire is about to open up the gates so that you can be ready on the other side with your fleets and all that stuff and be ready for that. It's actually a huge boon, let's put it that way. Added some unique diplomacy text for the kettlings. So the kettlings is something that we haven't talked about yet in any of our mechanics videos. It's on the list of things to do. And I'm kind of happy that I didn't do a video yet because obviously there's some stuff that's being updated here. The kettlings are the garbage aliens. So in Distant Stars, there is a event chain where you find a cluster of planets. Basically, they're made of garbage. It's very similar to the movie, oh good lord, WALL-E. That's the one I'm looking for. But all the piles of garbage, that's what the kettlings live on. So that's something you want to, you know, be looking about. Impossible Organism Anomaly Chain is now available for simulators and rogue servitors. So, Impossible Organism, I believe it's one of these special chains in the Distant Stars update where you can get a alien species to be part of your empire that can basically colonize anything, and it automatically fills up all your planetary tiles as well. It's kind of cool, but apparently now it's available to simulators and rogue servitors so that you can very quickly basically colonize everything. And of course, you want those rogue servitors are great as those bio trophies and assimilators. Well, You gotta bork them sooner or later. Impossible Organism Anomaly Chain tooltips and special projects are now more clear on what they actually do. Yeah, full disclosure, I've never done Impossible Organism. I've been tempted to look at the script files for it and trigger it manually, but I've simply not gotten around to it yet. So yeah. We now display Steam Rich Presence data to your Steam friends, not showing that you're just in-game, but also your Empire name, their ethics, and game date. So for those of you who play the game on Steam, we recently had an update for the Friends system, where you basically can see a lot more content, what's going on. You can turn all this stuff off, of course, as well. But now you can basically show to your friends, hey, this is what I'm playing, but also Empire name, ethics, and obviously game date. So if they have any questions, they can just dive right the hell in. All right, so those are features. We'll put some pictures in later. Balance stuff, which is of course important as well. The AI uprising now drastically increases naval capacity for a few years after forming, preventing immediate bankruptcy due to overcapacity costs. Huge deal, actually. So what this talks about is the AI uprising is a potential event that can happen if your robots, or I think it's synthoids actually, they can rise up and you can take control of them, or you fight them back. But the problem is they get a certain amount of fleet power, or a certain chunk of the fleet, and if that is not reflected in their territory with the naval capacity available to them, they will instantly bankrupt and grind to a halt, which is something you really do not want. And the AI uprising is now actually balanced a little bit better, so you can actually have a fun time with them, and then the AI uprising will be actually a proper threat rather than something that you can snuff out in the crib, which is great. That's a lot of flavor, a lot of fun. I believe there was a separate dev diary about this as well back in Synthetic Dawn, but good times, yeah, definitely. Oh, here's a good one. This is actually a huge deal. So we have been talking in the past about how cruisers are garbage at the moment, at least before this particular patch. Some balance has been added to said cruiser, specifically that they have higher survivability. Basically, corvettes are the least survivable ships right now, and this mainly have to do with the new numbers regarding combat disengagement chance. Basically, destroyers and cruisers have a higher chance of disengaging from combat compared to Titans and battleships and Corvette, and this also ties in towards our next one. Basically, there's a larger chance for them to leave the battle in one piece if they are losing. Ships with weapons that have very low tracking will now avoid firing on highly evasive targets if another, less evasive target is likely to become available soon. I.e. Titans should no longer fire their main gun, i.e. Perdition Beam, on corvettes if there is cruisers or battleships just outside of range. So this basically means that, well, its main gun. Titans should no longer fire the main gun if it's out of range. Look, the Perdition Beam has a ridiculous range and nothing really is ever out of range with it. But I kind of see what they're going here with. You have basically larger weapons, such as the spinal mount weapons, the heavy cannons, the tachyon beams, etc. They will no longer have a good time when trying to shoot corvettes, which is a good thing. Basically, it means that they will try to shoot something else that is preferably bigger, such as cruisers or battleships that are slightly out of range. So we'll need to close range a little bit, which is good. This will flesh out combat a little bit, but I've got my own gripes with combat already, and I will make a video about that in the near future, because there's a bunch of things that I'm not happy about when it comes to combat, and stuff would be said. Reduce spawn chance waits for the Vector Zavonian Marduk Vol anomaly. I have no clue what that is. I think this is the I think the system with the two irradiated worlds with the two species on it. Then you jump one system forward and there's a barren world there, and you do an anomaly, and then a Gaia world appears, and then another species comes in and tries to kill one of these guys. I don't know what that is, but what it is apparently it will spawn less now. So lower the chance of brain slug deleters, increased unrest modifier after brain slugging pop. So brain slugging is something we also not have talked about so far. There is an event where you can find a brain slug. And basically what it is it's a parasitic or syncretic life form that you can put in your brain, or at least in the brain of all your population, and have a nice, boost to your population. Brain slugs is actually really, really good. Because the bonuses they give, and we will do a video about that sooner or later once I'm actually managed to find one of these anomalies. But yeah, if you brain slug your pops, there will be an increased unrest modifier, and leaders have a lower chance now to be brain slugged as well due to the ridiculous bonuses that they give. Although, there is a new event in town involving the enigmatic cache, which gives some crazy bonuses as well as some other stuff. There's another character in the game which can give some crazy-ass bonuses as well. Modding, this is not really relevant. It's a bunch of out-of-sync stuff. Bug fixes. AI will no longer try to accidentally research technology that they have already done. Yeah, that makes sense. Marduk Purger fleets no longer use bouquets of flower as the warheads of their missiles, and their bombardments now actually cause damage. Oh, okay. Was that the... Yeah, okay, so it was the one where there's the purge fleet, so you need to go and save them. Okay, that makes sense. This is a good one. Fix the unbidden portal being vulnerable whilst extra-dimensional invaders still have active anchors. So there was a bug in the game where the unbidden had, if they still had anchors available, you could still attack their portal. Right now, the way it's supposed to work is all the portals, all the anchors need to be gone before you can kill the portal. That's now been fixed, so that's nice. Fix literally unplayable typos. There's a bunch of unplayable typos in the game, which is nice. Fix contingency starbases being so confident in their imposing demeanor that they didn't bother to use their weapon slots. Yeah, starbases from contingency did not shoot at you at all in the past, so now they will actually use those. This is not important. Fix pacifist description. That's not interesting. Added game rule exception that allows you to take hostile actions against factions that have conquered your planet, meaning situations like the mutant horror events can now be properly resolved. So the mutant horrors event is basically a if you find a nuked world that you can find a bunker with mutant horrors on it, and they take over the planet, yada yada yada. It's really annoying. So here's the big boy. Enigmatic cache trait. Yes, there is an enigmatic cache trait. There is actually 3 of them, and they are amazing. Can no longer be applied through gene modification, so you can't spam them on all your planets outside the intended scope of the event, which is a shame, which means that you can no longer basically use this trait and just run amok with it with the biological uplifting, which is a bit of a shame. In the past it was good. But you can still use erudite, and I've got a video in the cooker regarding enigmatic cache that we can have a little bit of a chat about. Fix impossible organism to allow Niflax to be spawned on any planet with free housing, not just the capital. So the impossible organisms called the Niflax. They basically fill up any tile on your capital worlds completely, and then you can basically just grow them anywhere. They're kind of crazy. Fix advanced AI. Empire is not getting all the extra colonies they should. That's annoying. This is not important. Disabled primitive civilization in game setup can now actually remove most of them, except for the certain ones that are required for events. Interesting. Fix a non-completable special project. It would appear that if the tutorial activated in the first alien contact is a Leviathan. Interesting. Fix a scavenger block not counting as a Leviathan with the purpose of satisfying military. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Fixed missing notification on first entering the quiet version of the L cluster. That didn't work before. Basically, you would enter the empty version of the L cluster with nothing in there, and basically you wouldn't get an event. That's a crash. Error logs. Kettlings no longer cheekily spawn on shattered worlds. Apparently that was a thing. So apparently the trash aliens tried to spawn on shattered worlds. Okay. This is a big one. Fixed fire control component from not working properly. Apparently fire controls didn't work. Let's sink that in. One of the best early additions to your fleets did not work properly. Great. Hive minds now have access to a lot more distant star anomalies. Small psionic shields did not have the right stats. And fixed out of sync when you host a game on a Mac. Cool. So then we get to all the additional stuff. So the patch went out silently a couple hours ago, which is great. And then, yeah, we're also very glad. So Humanoids and Distant Stars have a whole bunch of additional stuff. Humanoids get all these cool new pictures and stuff. Beards are a thing now. Mustaches as well. Cool hair. Apparently this was made in collaboration with Sylphe, who has done a pretty damn amazing job on doing a bunch of really good mods. I believe specifically some of the Mass Effect mods that have been worked on by that particular modder, which is great. Really cool to see that we're getting modders being involved with the development team. And that's basically the way to go if you want to work at Paradox. It's always a good idea to start out as a modder. We're seeing a lot of cool stuff there. New clothing has been added. And there is a upgrade for Distant Stars. Now, Distant Stars, initially, a lot of people were like, this is it. This is it when you open up the L gates. You can have 3 events. You can have the emptiness. You can have the Grey Tempest, or you have a 10% chance of getting Dragon Season. This has now been changed because there's 2 additional events added, and I'm going to try not to have too much spoilers in here. But one of them also involves the Great Tempest in a certain way, just not in how you anticipate it. And on top of that, there is another event that can happen with something else spawning. And it's rather cool. We'll be doing a video on those too in the very near future. But this will have to tide us over until the Guin comes out, 2.2. We still don't know when it's gonna come. We don't know if it's gonna be on the horizon sooner or later or not, but still good to know that the developers are trying to ease us through and getting all this stuff out. Especially additional content for Distant Stars is great. So we're gonna wrap it up here. If you got any questions and or comments regarding this particular update, leave them below in the comments, which is kind of doubling up on the word comments. Smash that like button, yes. And feel free to subscribe as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and, as always, each other.